3 o'clock. Let's start. Welcome everybody to this second online panel discussion organized by IFMA, Belgium chapter. You see here the screen in front of you where we have a couple of house rules. You have been automatically unmuted and your video has been cut off. However, if you would like to have a question and you want to pose a question, not pose, but if you want to give a question, ask a question to one of the panel members, you can use the chat button, which you will find on beneath your screen. Next slide, you will see the people that are joining us today on this panel. And I would like to start by asking each of them to take a word and to introduce themselves and give a little, maybe already a little heads up about how they have lived this COVID, because the next questions probably will be on how the future will be. I would like to start with Mark van Horenbeek. Mark, go ahead.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Mark van Horenbeek. I'm the chairman of IFMA Belgium and also facilities and renovation manager of Brussels Airport Company. And so I will thank you everybody to take part of this online panel discussion. So yeah, the weeks before our airport was hit very bad by this crisis. And yeah, for now, the activities are close to zero. So it has a very big impact on the airport and the whole airport community.
Okay, thank you. Antruch is still in another call, so she will join us later. Then I would like to ask Martin.
Martin, ik kan jouw micro niet activeren. Kan jij het proberen manueel? Ja, dank je.
I'm Martin Roeges. I am facility manager of Randstad Group and board member of IFMA, and I have been managing the crisis as from the end of February now. We've been working together with our safety manager on a daily basis, and we are currently working on the recovery in order to be able to open offices again, but also in order to be able to put our temp workers at work in a safe environment. So not only for people working in our offices, but also how are we going to make sure that our temp workers can work safely at our clients, but also at private people, because we also have people cleaning with titre service dienstenchecks. I didn't find the good English translation for that one.
Thank you, Martin. Aniek, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Aniek van den Bulke. I am the managing director of Colliers in Belgium. And the crisis has not impacted us that much, in a sense that we were already working in quite a flexible way. So working from home was not really an issue for us. It has impacted us business-wise because, of course, some of our projects are now temporarily on hold or running a bit slower because a lot of contractors have stopped working, but that's a temporary situation. And now we are focusing on helping our clients getting back at the office and assessing the potential impacts of this on the work environment and more specifically on the shared activity-based work environments. So I'm very curious to hear about everyone, how they feel about that on coming back to the office.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody has the same feeling. Wim, go ahead, please.
Tanya, for this opportunity. Good afternoon from myself as well. I'm Wim Mulders. I'm in charge of the marketing and external communication at Randstad. Also for us, it has been a hectic time. I think we have been turning around the company in an incredible way. From, I think, mainly working all inside the office towards all outside the office. So most of the people have been working from home office, so it had a lot of impact on the operations. We continued to work as much as possible. Maybe we can go into details later on that. And as most of you, I think right now we are busy writing our exit strategy. How will we go back to normal, if it will be normal again? And of course, yeah, we have our daily, on top of the normal daily meetings, we have, of course, every day Corona meetings, and Skype and Teams, and going from one headset meeting into another. So it has been, like for all of us, quite strange periods.
Okay, thank you, Wim. Sven?
Okay. First of all, thank you to be part of this panel. It's a great audience, and thank you for everybody to call in here and to listen in. So what does it mean for Spacewell? I think, like for most companies, it's been some kind of a roller coaster. Remote working was already part of our DNA, of course. Workplace management has been, focus of what we do, same as facility management. So, but it's in one way, we've been approached by many people that are looking now for occupancy. So that is related to going back to the office, where many people are looking for answers. How can we get people in a safe way back to the office? And so we've been contacted by many people, and that also has an impact on our development. There's a lot of things that we can do already to support, but there's a lot of things that are under development now, and more to come. So for us, exciting times. A little bit, for what concerns business-wise. One way, everything continues as far as running projects. Some projects, of course, have been put on hold. I think, like for most companies these days, there's other priorities, and clearly people want to know how do they need to deal with the people in their organization, with their customers, so the ecosystem that they're dealing with, and then what it means now going forward. So this topic that IFMA is offering, I think it's very relevant to so many companies and so many individuals as well.
Okay. Is Anne already on the panel, Anne?
Yes, I arrived.
Hi, Anne. Hi, Anne.
Just coming out of a COVID meeting. So.
Voila, that's what I said. And I just wanted to ask you to introduce yourself and maybe give a little heads up on how these last weeks were for you.
Okay, so I'm now head of global facilities management at UCB Pharma. And for us, it's been a very hectic time, as for most of you, I think. We, of course, are a pharmaceutical company, so it means that we have to take care of our patients, and production is still ongoing, where we have enough supplies and where we can keep the social distancing. From an office point of view, I think we were very quickly able to have everybody work from home. I must say IT stepped up very nicely to put things in place that were not yet in place, so that was very good. And of course, now we're already in full mode of the confinement, but as far as the production sites are concerned, they are still operational, labs are still operational, research is still where it needs to be operational, it is. But the global rule was whoever can work from home needs to work from home.
Okay, okay, like a lot of people. Huh?
Yeah.
Mark, I would like to ask you a question because you said the airport was really almost up to zero on activities. So how did you then really reallocate the people, the manpower in this FM department? Because of course of this seriously reduced operational context.
Yes, yeah, our airport was really bad hit by this crisis, still does. And actually the first questions that we had was to reduce the square meters that we use of the airport. So I had to find and put up a small team from people that can help me. But I had to look far more beyond their daily jobs. So maybe one people does a certain job in normal situation, and I had to identify which people I could put in that special team that had a lot of know-how about the airport and also a lot of experience, not only in their own job, but also for which people do I need to close certain parts of the airport. We had to close down the Pier A, and I had to be able to identify those people. But not only for the closing some parts of the airport and to do some small jobs, but also for the ramp up later on. So later on, probably we're gonna ramp up, and I hope as fast as possible. But I have to identify which people in my team can I put in a smaller team that's active today and that can go on afterwards in taking care of the projects that we still gonna do and want to do after the confinement and the lockdown is behind us. And that was really challenging because it's not only to look what job they do today, but also what is the potential of those people and what are their skills, personal skills that can help me now, but also in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also have been speaking about lockdown. Anne, for example, you said that the labos, etc., were still busy. But what do you think that the immediate consequences for FM will be for buildings, especially by when we are going to prepare? And I think quite some companies are already preparing for the deconfinement.
Yes. Well, I think for us, there are two stages. Right? We're now looking also at the deconfinement. We as a UCB are going to already put some principles in place, but then as we are a global organization, we also have to take into account that every country will be at a different pace. We also have to take into account that we have to go maybe two steps in deconfinement, and then maybe by September go one step back. If you look at the experts, we have to be prepared to go forward in deconfinement, but also maybe take a step back. And if it's only Belgium, then the government is our guidelines and the experts. And then as a company, maybe you want to do more, but on a global level, it's even more important that you have the right stakeholders in a team where you can follow the situation. And on the longer term, we are constructing quite a few buildings around the world. And we also have a project of new way of working or activity-based working, which is being rolled out as well. So there also we need to rethink or at least make it even more agile than it is, to make sure that if we have this again or something similar, that we are prepared to do this. Because a lockdown like we had to do is on the one hand, it's easy because, you know, we need to today, but going back and then being flexible in that respect, I think is going to be a bigger question for all of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Aniek, what do you see as the biggest challenge to come back to the offices, to prepare it?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges will be the shared spaces. I think for workplaces, you can quite easily implement either social distancing by reducing the occupation and keeping the home working partially in place. But for shared spaces like meeting rooms, cafeterias, bubbles, things like that, it will be more difficult because a lot depends on specific configurations. So it will require some study to see what is the maximum capacity of meeting rooms, cafeterias, how to organize this internally, how to organize meetings, because as Anne said, if you are all confined and everyone is meeting virtually, you are used to it. If half of the people are in the office and the other half are virtual, it could be quite a different dynamic in the meeting, and people not being physically present could be forgotten. So I think it will have quite some impact on the collaborative spaces, on the workplaces, with maybe creating some distance or with some additional help from plexiglass. You can create enough capacity, but it's the shared spaces that I think will be, from a social distancing and from a hygienic point of view, will be the most complicated to manage.
Yeah, absolutely. Martine, how can we then verify whether we have thought enough about everything regarding the startup? Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that?
What we did was we defined the journeys. So we defined the journey of our own staff. You have different business lines, and so per business line, and sometimes you even have to go by department. People working in an L&D department, learning and development, have a different journey than the people who are working at payment of salaries, for example. So we looked at all these journeys. What do they do in the morning? They come to work. Do they come by public transportation? Do they come by car? But also, what access points do they need to pass? How many things do they need to touch? And with how many people do they pass through certain pathways? And that can be, for example, elevators, where we put a maximum of 2 people per elevator, depending on the size of the elevator. Sometimes you can only have 1 person in an elevator. Since we also will work a lot on home office and really try to work in A and B teams, this will be possible, but it's really important to look at each and every journey, not only of your own staff, but also your suppliers coming in. For example, our temp workers, we also made their journeys. Clients, visitors who come by in the offices, I think it's important to look at everyone who comes into your office and describe every journey, because this will be different for different companies. In production facilities, this will be totally different than in pure office buildings. But it's important to define this journey and to look how will they cross people, when will they be in contact with materials and people. And then for each contact, you can define your preventive measures.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Martine. Sven, we have heard already several people talking about, well, when we come back, distance, etc. But for example, how can technology help us when we return to the office more than it already helped us?
So I think, in our opinion, there are 2 speeds, criteria actually. Those are the short term and the long term, and some of them will be overlapping, some will be specifically on the short term, as people go now back. And how we see is that there are 3 stakeholders. First of all, there's the management of the companies that want their people to be able to return in a safe way to the office. At the same time, there's also government that will keep an eye on companies, and they might want to check if how people are organizing that. What is the communication? What is allowed? What is not allowed? Is it all secure? And in that way, we think that data will be a big, and technology will be a big benefit, rather than just purely on gut, but make sure that occupancy and utilization of certain floors, buildings, spaces can be managed in a safe way. Secondly, there's then also the aspect for the people that are going to come in the building. So the building users, the people that return to the workplace, they want also to be able to see where is it safe to sit, where is it crowded, where is it overcrowded, and where is there space that I can book a meeting room, that I can book my desk, if it's flex desks, of course, because some companies also won't have flex desks these days and have dedicated desks. And then the third aspect is relating to service providers, what about cleaning? So we know cleaning is going to be an important aspect. It's going to be different cleaning. It's going to be activity-based cleaning, and they're also, it's important to know where people have been in part of the building, and data can support that. So same not only for cleaning but also for maintenance, for HVAC. Technology definitely will be a help there, and as the way we see it is, I think many companies have been very much involved already with technology, but for some companies, technology has been far away from their priorities, and this is one of the advantages coming with Corona, is that we think, this can speed up digitization in certain industries, in certain companies.
Okay, thank you. I have a question from the audience. Guido asks me, is anybody thinking of counting the number of people admitted per square meters? Is Sven, maybe you would, I see you nodding yes, would you like to maybe elaborate on that?
There are several technologies these days that work on this. Some technologies already exist. I know there's a company in Antwerp that has some. They have been in the news working with a watch that can give signals if people are coming too close. We also have in our ecosystem, we have several sensor suppliers that are working also at a high pace to bring sensors that could give also signals if people come too close to each other, or areas are too close, too much occupied. So if there's too many people in a certain room or in a certain space, they also would give a signal. And so there is definitely a lot of technology. Some is available, some will be soon available in the market from many players.
Yeah, okay. And how many people, it's also from coming back on that same question, how many people are advised per square meters? Is anybody has an answer on that?
If I can,
yeah,
take this.
Aniek? Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, we with Colliers, we created a sort of social distancing calculator, and we measure that 1 person per 13 or per square meters is something to consider. But of course, I think it's not only about how many people per square meter, but also how people behave within those square meters, because you can, if you go to the supermarket, even if they only allow 1 person per 10 square meters, if people still do not behave and keep distance within the shop, you still have issues. So I think the focus should not only be how many people per square meter, but how can we respect the social distancing rules within the square meters. So I think it's a double answer, but 1 per 13 is in general the whole office space, the net office space considered. But yeah, how you keep the distance, it's still important, even if you limit the number of people.
Good, thank you. I see that there is a reply on that. Mansoura released an official guideline on workspace distancing and cleaning measures yesterday. It's not something companies should improvise on. Comes from Guy Class in the chat. So Mansoura, there you can find the official guidelines, but I think they will all be a little bit in the same matters. We have talked about what will people do, what should we do for people, but Wim, being an external company also, what do you and what can you recommend for the facility managers concerning inspections and controls? Because of course, these are things that will need to go on. Can you give us already something on that?
Yeah. Well, what we have seen is that we have been continuing to work in a lot of cases because of the fact that it is important that everything is inspected and controlled in time. But of course, there has been on multiple situations there has been a delay. The can't recall the exact English word, but the rust- en verzorgingshuizen, the elderly homes. Of course, it speaks for itself that there has not been controls during the last couple of weeks. So what I would recommend right now is that as we are all going back to a more normal situation, is that you start planning because we foresee a lot of demands coming in, and of course there is a limited capacity to do it because it has to be done by people, and of course we can't just add more people. So the same amount of people have to do a lot of inspections right now, which has not been done in the last couple of weeks. So I think it's common sense to start planning everything right now to avoid that there is a problem coming up in the near future. That's one thing. And then as we all need to learn by doing and progressing what we are experiencing right now, is that we were thinking, okay, a lot of companies, I heard before as well, said, okay, only one person per elevator or two persons per elevator, depending on the size, which makes complete sense. But of course, that could have as an impact that elevators will be used much more, because it's not 6 people going up, but it will be 1 by 1 going up, and the elevator will continuously going up. And that is the thing that we say, okay, maybe people should start thinking about consequences as well, because we might run into situations where, because of a changed behavior, because of a changed usage of assets, there will be problems coming up which we haven't foreseen. So I think it's an interesting time to think wide and to foresee a lot of things, to try to foresee a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't take risks. That's of course.
That's the first
very important
issue.
Yeah, because what we all want to avoid, of course, is that we can go back to business as normal, and then certain assets start to break down. That would be very pity, of course.
That's a good guideline. Yeah. And this pandemic influences a new way of working, but also on our infrastructure and our technical installations. We also heard it from Wim. Do you have already an idea, or do you already have something that you guys are putting in plan?
Yes, we are. We're constantly reviewing and thinking of what else, because initially it's of course all hands on deck to do the confinement. But since then we've started both on the production side and also on the office side, but also on the engineering side, who are building new buildings. What do we need to think about? And then it goes from office space, but it goes also towards ventilation. Is that an important? Do we need to review it? In how do we just have a new cafeteria built, but it's more like a meeting area. So how are we going to reopen it? Is it ever going to be used the way we intended to use it? So there are a lot of work groups already and cross-functional because we have we take our clients, our internal clients with us to do that, to see what the evolution is going to be on the short term. And also, as far as people is concerned, we want people to feel safe, and I think that's going to be with us for a while. It's not going to be over by August. So we need to make sure that everybody who comes on site feels safe and feels safe to work. So it's a very, very broad area that we have to cover, and also our suppliers, as Wim said, are thinking with us to how are we are going to take this on in the future, and what are we going to keep, and what can we abandon in time, to have a plan also for our suppliers that they know or and can anticipate what we are going to ask them. So it's a big exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, we have been talking about also what FM is already doing. Well, the airport is also something which is affecting each country, I think, with when the flights are coming back. So what does your management committee expect from FM during and after this crisis?
Well, during the crisis, to start with, it was we had to save as many money that we can on the contracts and etc. So obviously, from the start, they're not going to tell us all the scenarios that they had in mind, but we had first of all for ourselves had some scenarios in our mind: a normal scenario, mid-range scenario, and worst case scenario, because we don't know how many time this will stay as it is. So at a certain point, they came to us to see and to implement us by those the scenarios that they had in mind. And so we had already some scenarios ready to present them for the savings. But also after the lockdown period, they expect from us different scenarios that we can put on the table, and they have to choose what they want to do, taking into account the reality at that moment. And so we did that a couple of weeks ago. We had already some scenarios ready, and they expect from us that we can determine which projects we need to maintain now, because it is also when the airport is closed, or the airport is not really closed, but almost closed. There's not many people that are using the airport for now. There are some projects that still need to be done, projects that has in accordance with rules and legislations, Belgium legislations, we need to keep them. Also the projects that will where we have immediately an income. Let's say we are building some new offices, and there is a party that still is interesting in those offices. When they are finished, it's an immediately return for Brussels Airport. So we have to identify the projects, but also the jobs that we still have to maintain after the crisis, and have actually a roadmap for facilities, and also for the projects that we can present to the management committee, that they can decide what they're gonna do and which scenario they will take for the future.
Okay, thank you. There has been a few private questions. Also somebody who asked, what about the virus and the ventilation? I would like to say tomorrow there's a newsletter coming out where we have some guidelines from IBV, but it's also on our news on our sites, what you need and can do for your ventilation. Martine, we've been working a lot from home. Now we've been talking, what about to work back at the office after the lockdown? Can you already maybe give some lessons learned from the last weeks from home working? The most important lesson learned?
Well, I think for Randstad Group, there was one big advantage that we just picked up our things and went home, and we were all operational at once, which was a great advantage. But now we've noticed that we have some issues with connection. How do we connect with the people that are at home? How do they interconnect? Because often the manager still is in contact with the co-workers, but you have a lot of issues of different departments that don't know anymore when to contact someone. We have temporary unemployment in place at this moment, so you also don't know when someone is working, which is very difficult for some people. Some people who are living at home, alone at home, have mental problems, and it's in a positive way, but have psychological issues because the fear is increasing tremendously about going out. People coming back to the office, we don't only want to look at what do we create as a safe environment to work in physically, but we also need to look at the psychological needs of people coming back, because some people really cry out that everyone should be wearing mouth masks all day long, whilst then you create even more fear because you don't have the non-verbal expressions anymore. So it's really important to look at that aspect as well. But I also think that offices will be completely different. Now we have a lot of open spaces where you have benches of 4 desks. Everything is flex desk. We will not come into the office 5 days a week anymore. We will continue working from home. So the way that we work in our offices will be different. We will have more social activities in the office and less fixed desk working, and this will make a huge impact. We are actually currently working at reinventing our headquarters. We're having movers on the floors right now. We were implementing concentration workspaces. We've already made the change into making that into collaborative workspaces, because we won't be doing concentration work from the office anymore. We have the home office for that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Martien. Aniek, do you think that, and also listening to Martien, do you think that the COVID-19 means the end of desk sharing and maybe the activity-based working, co-working spaces?
Well, on the long term, probably not, because I think although home working was already for many companies part of their daily operation, we still find that a lot of our customers say that okay, something that was unthinkable for some companies, working from home, all of a sudden is really part of business continuity. So I think on the one hand, you will have companies that in the long term, once we are out of this social distancing situation, will go to more desk sharing again and more activity-based working. Also, as Martien said, there was already a big focus on collaboration at the office. And I think the forced home working only proves that collaborating, you can do it from a distance, but it's a lot more effective if you are together, physically together in a location. So it will not be the end of it, I'm sure, but I think in the midterm, short term, yeah, the fact that we have to keep the social distancing will impact the fact that we won't share desks during the day. People will sit at one desk they will keep their desk for the rest of the day, and there will not be changes during the day, which in some activity-based environments you do have. So I think that the sharing will continue. Of course, for the time being, there will be a lot more focus on hygienic measures and in cleaning. I think people will have to feel safe using the environment. So giving them disinfectant cleaning so that they can ensure themselves that they can have an impact on that. It will be very important. So it will not be the end of it, but temporarily the additional workstations will be there to keep the social distancing.
Yeah, absolutely. Question to Wim. Do you believe that this virus, this crisis, especially the crisis, of course, has also some positive results on the companies or the way of working?
Absolutely. It's a little bit strange to say that this kind of crisis has positive results, but I think, yeah, we have been, and of course, Vansot is an old company, almost 150 years old. And a lot of things had been going on as they always went on. And what we've seen is that the agility of the company has been enormous. To give an example, we have been discussing internally a lot about online trainings, for instance. We do a lot of trainings in our academy, which were typical classical trainings. And of course, now with COVID-19, with coronavirus, there was no option anymore. All trainings had to stop immediately. And we managed to start up in the few weeks that we had. We managed to start up new online trainings like this, and we already introduced them. We already did it. We did webinars for 500 customers in a way that was like, wow, this is possible, like this one as well. I think if there would not have been the coronavirus, we would not have had this webinar like this. We would have had another kind of meeting. We would have sit around the table, 5, 6 of us now, together. But like this, we would not have been doing it. And maybe this is what we're all learning now by doing and by progressing. So I think it's really a good thing. On audits, for instance, as well, we introduced remote audits, which was like, wow, this is also possible to do. And then of course, legislation had to follow. And you see that there are a lot of initiatives that are possible now, which before were just unthinkable to do. And I think that's one of the, well, that could be one of the positive outcomes of the crisis. And also the creativity. We looked a lot at what are we doing right now, and can we improve what we're doing? There's also a very last year we had a solution together with Carrefour on a blockchain application to track the meat, the pork meat from the farm to the fork. We said, okay, can't we use this this technology of QR codes to bring more safety into buildings? And together with a software firm, we have been developing this, and we will launch it hopefully on Saturday in a quite big press campaign. But that is really nice to see that people start to get creative in these kind of crises, and that's good. And we had a customer who was building events, building booths. They are completely out of business. They don't do anything anymore. And they basically took their knowledge to build a container which can be used. There was one in Carrefour in Brussels, which was introduced last week as a test site, where people can pass through, where their caddies are cleaned, disinfected. They could disinfect the hands. They're thinking about adding thermography, etc. And okay, we are helping them as well, because there's a lot of controls which needs to be done. You can't just put a container out in the street and then connect it to the electricity grid, and there you go. So there needs to be a lot of controls going on. so we're helping them as well, and that is really a nice outcome of this situation we're in.
Okay, thank you, Wim. Sven, a little bit the same question to you also. What do you think that the opportunities for business and the workplace to come, what comes out of this crisis? Are we getting better or stronger out of this?
Without a question, I think, like Johan Cruijff mentioned it, every bad is good. So I think this is definitely here also, although it depends from business to business, of course, and then from size of organization, and how you're, what industry you're in. But for us, being active with smart buildings, we definitely see this as people becoming more interested in data, in technology, and making that available for themselves to manage their buildings smarter, from a point of real estate, but also facility management, but also mostly for the users of the building, making apps available with different features that they can, like mentioned, occupy buildings, floors, but also services, making services available for the people in the building. If there's something that needs extra cleaning, if there's something that is an issue related to too many people, they can mention it, make an alert in the organization. So definitely, I think this will transform companies. Also related to what Martin earlier mentioned, how people are going to be in the organizations in office space, where many people still have fixed desks. More companies will move to flex desks, and even beyond that, there will be not the new way of working, but it will be a different way of working. And people are in our company. We had the guidance of working 1 day from home. After this, we already know that it will be more than 2 or 3 days working from home. And then people will rethink, probably find some better work-life balance. Don't spend that much time in the car going to customers, going to the office space. But yeah, from time to time, you still need to be together as a team. It's good face-to-face. It's a different atmosphere. It's part of the culture of organizations. But I think there's definitely something to say. Focus, work in your own environment, get your workplace at home also differently developed than what we were used to. So we'll get different out of this. Is this going to go away? No, this is not going to go away. It's only going to be different.
Yeah.
And now there's the period that we're in the Corona. Then it will be the post-Corona COVID period. But anyhow, it will impact people's life professionally on the workplace, working from home, being more agile and being more resilient with those kind of situations.
Okay, thank you, Sven. I heard already a couple of times external suppliers, cleaning, etc. And I've also heard some debates about it. Do we need to review our contracts with our suppliers or not? Anne, what do you think? Do you think we need to review the contracts with our suppliers on the lessons that we learned during this crisis?
I think it's a good idea to sit together with the suppliers, especially those who have been very crucial on site, and see what are the lessons learned. What did we do as a client? What did we do well? What did we do wrong? And vice versa, so that we can actually have a plan on how to be more agile. How do we need to review stocks of certain things? Do we need other flexibilities built into the contract that maybe before we thought it was too expensive to have, and now it all of a sudden seems normal that you have that in your contracts as a possibilities, and that there is an agreement about it. So I think it's definitely a good idea to sit with your suppliers who are involved in this Corona situation in your buildings and on your sites, to see what went well and what went wrong, and then take the lessons from there. And be more agile into the future and build that into the contracts. So
Absolutely. Thank you. And Aniek, what do you have? What are your most useful lessons learned during this COVID-19 to prepare the future?
Well, I think the most valuable lesson learned is that, yeah, being away from each other, it really requires a specific effort to contact everyone, to keep everyone part of the company, organizing virtual meetings. I mean, we feel that we have to organize more meetings because there's a lot of informal interaction that you miss. So I think it really, for me, it shows that working from home is good, and you can do it 1-2 days a week. But if you have to do it full time, it's especially for the collaborative tasks, it's quite counterproductive. So. And we really have a lot of people that really want to come back to the office to see their colleagues, to discuss with them. So it's creating really a lot of social isolation. It relates to what Martin said. I think everyone will be really, really happy when we can go back to the office and see each other. And I was at the office yesterday to do some things, and there were other people, and everyone was really happy to see each other. So I think, yeah, that the office is really a center point of the company's culture. So for me, it's an important lesson to learn that you can't do everything from home.
No, true. There are some chats going back and forward on a question that was asked to everybody. We see that a lot now on TV in China. What do you think about the temperature screening of people at the building access? We're talking people going back. So there is apparently a question about what do we think about it? Is there a company in Belgium that has some kind of things? I would like to ask that question to Mark, because once again, I think where most people traffic will be is the airport when it opens again. What is your feeling about that?
Yes, well, that question was asked to me, I think 3 weeks ago already, because then we received some technical data from measurement systems that we can implement on the airport. So definitely, I think we can go that way, and I think we will go that way, and that we will implement in our airport. For the incoming flights, but also outgoing flights, that we will implement some systems that can monitor the temperature of the people that's passing there. But it's not that easy. I didn't had some info about Belgium enterprises that offering those technologies. It was a technology from another country, and we have to be able to put it the right way, because those sensors doesn't work. We need to install them the right way, that they work, and we cannot put it just on a pole when people are passing. We have to integrate them into building, and that's not that easy, and we are working now to see how we can implement that in our buildings at the right places, where we can detect the people from advance, and that then after this is in place, there is also guidelines that we have that we need, that when we are detecting something or somebody that has a higher temperature, what is the procedure that we have to do with those peoples? What can they take their flight or not? Do we hand over a pamphlet or what? Also, that we need to know. So we cannot install this just like that, and without the follow-up measures. And this is something that has to be decided with the government. What shall we do when we detect somebody that's maybe where the temperature is too high?
And what is too high? As from what temperature?
I was I was telling about the measurement of the temperature, the koorts, the fever.
Fever.
When somebody has fever and the temperature is too high, what you gonna do? You can detect it. You can detect it with some measurements tools that we can install. But what do you do when you detect somebody? That needs to be clear. Then, second of all, you need the right sensors, and you need to implement them the right way, that they work, that's not so easy to do. But we are thinking on the airport to do it, and probably we're gonna install it. I think quite soon.
Okay, thank you. Time flies when we're having fun. It's 4 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank you all for having joined. I know there are some people that need to go in other calls. I just would like to put your attention on the next activities from IFMA. It has been said already also by Wim, online things are going on, so did we, so we do not sit still. We have some other activities coming on. Tomorrow there is a workplace experience post-corona with ISS, then there is a webinar on télétravail for the Francophone. Then there is on the 6th of May, we have a webinar Onthaal and Hospitality. So this with Silicum. That's also to see what we need to do for our visitors and our employees when we go back to our companies. We have scheduled an online training, Lastenboek Schoonmaak. First one is completely full. It was in no time, it was full. So we organized a second one on the 18th. The 27th, we have a formation en ligne, cahier des charges et nettoyage in French. So we do it in Dutch and in French. We have postponed our company visit to the office of Alliance on September. And then we also have the facility awards on the 22nd of October. So not the 28th of May anymore. And our FM day is on the 13th of November. Instead of the 16th of June. So therefore, once again, I would like to thank everybody who joined this panel discussion. I saw that at a certain moment we were about 51 people joining, so that was a success, I think. If I may just ask the panel to stay a little bit longer on, and then for the rest, thank you so much. The session is recorded, so we will put it online. Thank you very much, everybody, and be safe.